So hello friends, in this lecture we will focus on mean value theorems regarding integrable functions or mean value theorems on integral. Okay. So the first theorem is if f is bounded an integrable function on the interval a to b, then there exists a number mu which lies between infimum and supremum. So this small m represent infimum, this capital M represent supremum. There is a number mu lies between infimum and supremum of the function f on AB such that the integral of f is equal to mu into b minus a. Okay, so this is one mean value theorem. Okay, so there is a mean value mu is lies between m and m. Okay, so we will prove this. Okay, now we are given f is bounded function and is integral also. So since we have f is we are given the function is integrable or Riemann integral on the interval a to b. So we know one inequality that the infimum into b minus a is always less equal to lower sum of the function corresponding to any partition p. Lower sum is always less equal to the lower integral, but here lower integral is equal to upper integral is equal to integral of the function because function is Riemann integral. So lower sum which is less equal to integral directly. We don't write here lower integral because function is integral. So lower integral is equal to upper integral, which is equal to the just integration. Okay, so integral of function. Now this integral is equal to upper integral because function is integral, and we know the upper integral is always less equal to the upper sum. So this is less equal upper sum, and upper sum is always less equal to the supremum into b minus a. We know this inequality. Okay, so from this we can write. Okay, so m into this b minus a. Okay, is less equal to the this integration from a to b of function, and this integration is less equal to this supremum into b minus. Okay, now we have here is b minus a, here is b minus a. So divide each quantity by b minus a. So we will get this m is less equal to 1 upon b minus a. Okay, because here b minus a we cancel after division. Here there is no b minus a, so 1 upon b minus a into integration from a to b of the function. Now divide this also by b minus a, so this b minus a and b minus a get cancelled. So here we will only here use this again to 1. Okay, so first inequality this. Okay, now we will write this as a mu. Okay, so write this as a mu. So define a quantity mu which is equal to 1 upon b minus a into integration from a to b of the function. Okay, now since this is the interval from a to b, b minus a is not equal to the 0. So this mu is defined. Okay, and mu is defined. Mu is defined or exists since b minus a is not equal to 0. Okay, so b and a are not same. This is the interval from a to b. Okay, now see from 1 we can see this m. Okay, small m, that is infimum, is less equal to this quantity, and this quantity is nothing but mu. This m is less equal to the mu, and this mu is less equal to the supremum of the function. So we have find there is number mu between this m and n such that only this we have to prove. Okay, so mu lies between supremum and infimum. Also from this we can write since mu is equal to 1 upon b minus a into integration, this integration a to b of the function is equal to, so 1 upon b minus a, when it goes to the left side, becomes mu into b minus a. Okay. Because we have the denominator, when we change the side, it goes to multiplication with mu. This applies from this integration is equal to b minus a into b. So we have proved there is a number mu in between supremum and infimum such that integration is equal to mu into b minus a. This is the first mean value theorem. So now this is the another form of mean value theorem. The theorem says if function is continuous and integrable on the interval ab, then integration of function is equal to f of c into b minus a, where c is some point in this interval. Okay. So we will prove this theorem. Okay. Now again we know our general eligibility. We have just seen that infimum into b minus a always less equal to the integral of the function, and this is always less equal to the supremum into b minus a. Okay. So that is infimum of the function is again less equal to, we can write, we divide each term by b minus a. So here b minus a gets cancelled, and here we have write 1 upon b minus a, because here there is no term b minus a. Okay. So 1 upon b minus a into integration of the function e of, this is, and this is less equal to the e of, because here after division this b minus a and b minus a get cancelled, again b minus a get cancelled, here is 1 upon b minus a. Now this small m is the infimum of the function on this interval ab, and this capital M is the infimum of the supremum of the function. Sorry, this is the supremum of the function on this interval ab, and f is continuous. Okay, so this value is lies between infimum and supremum of f. We know there is one theorem known as intermediate value theorem for continuous function. If f is continuous function, okay, if f is continuous function and this value is infimum and this value of supremum, okay, and this value lies between infimum and supremum. Okay, so if there is value of function which lies between two values, then by intermediate value theorem we can find the element of this ab such that f of that element equal to the middle value. Okay, so intermediate value theorem says if there is some function, continuous function, okay, like this, okay, so at this is the infimum value of the function which is at point A function is minimum, say, and at point B function is, say, maximum. Okay, then if this is the any value of the function between infimum and supremum, so this is the value of the function which is lies between infimum and supremum. So we can find the element in between A and B. So we can find the element C in between A and B such that f of C is equal to that middle value. This is the intermediate value theorem. Okay, so by intermediate value theorem, okay, we can write there is the point C in the interval AB such that f of that point is equal to this with a value, such that f of C is equal to this middle value. Middle value is 1 upon b minus a into integration from a to b of the function f. That is, this integration of the function is equal to, so 1 upon b minus a. When this 1 upon b minus a goes to this side, become f of c. This goes here, and here we can write this is equal to f of c into b minus a, because this divisor become multiplier when side get changed. So this integration is equal to f of c into b minus a. So we can find element of the interval AB such that integration is equal to f of c into b minus a. This is the another mean value here. Okay. Now we will see another theorem. If there are two functions f and g on which are Riemann integrable on the interval a and b, and function g is non-negative, that is greater than or equal to 0, then there is this number lambda in between infimum and supremum of function f on the interval a b, such that integration of f into g is equal to lambda into integration of g. So we can find lambda is lies between infimum and supremum of f, satisfying this. Okay. Now case 1, function g of x is greater than or equal to 0. Okay. Now if g of x is equal to 0, then this integration becomes 0. This term will become 0. So integration of 0 becomes 0. So 0 is equal to 0. So everything is valid. So when function g is 0 or integration of function g is 0, there is nothing to prove. Okay. Here, if integration of g of x is equal to 0, then this side becomes 0, and we know if function is Riemann integrable and if g of x is greater or equal to 0, then is integration always greater or equal to 0, and if the integration is equal to 0, this implies function g is identically equal to the 0. So this, in this case, g of x becomes 0. So this f into 0 becomes 0. So integration of 0 is 0. So there is nothing to prove. Then proof is obvious. Okay. Because there is nothing to prove. If integration of g is 0, then function g is also 0. So integration of g is 0 here, and since g is 0, this product becomes 0. Integration of 0 is 0. So 0 is equal to lambda into 0. Okay. So there is nothing to prove. So we will take the case. So we take that integration of the function g of x from a to b is strictly positive. Okay. If integration is equal to 0, there is nothing to prove. So we assume the integration is strictly positive. Okay. Now, since function f has infimum and supremum, each value of function lies between that supremum and infimum. So we have infimum f is less equal to any value of the function, and this any value of the function is always less equal to the supremum of the functions for all x in the interval a. Okay. This applies for all x in the interval a. Now multiply each term by g for function g of x. This applies the f into g of x is always less equal to f of x into g of x, which is always less equal to the m into g of x. Okay. We are just multiplying each term by function g of x. Okay. And since this is get equal to 0, this inequality does not get changed. Okay. Now take integration on each part. This applies. Since m is constant, we can take it outside the integration. So m into integration of g is less equal to the, take integration on this side also and on this side also, less equal to the integration of f and g, and this is less equal to the integration of this. Again, this supremum is constant, we can take it outside. So m into integration of g. Okay. Now dividing each term by this integration of a to b g of x dx, we get, so we get m is less equal here divide this term by integration of g of x dx. This term get cancelled. There is no term integration of g of x dx. So we can write in numerator there is integration f of x into g of x dx from a to b, and in denominator divide each term by integration of a to b g of x dx. So here this get cancelled, and here it comes in denominator. So integration of the function g of x. Okay, so write it like this: m is less, and this is less equal to divide this term also by integration of g of x dx. So this get cancelled. So here remains only here. Okay, so we can say this is our lambda. Okay, so this term is our lambda. So this lies between infimum and supremum. Lambda lying between infimum and supremum of f. So we take, so lambda is equal to, okay, so we take lambda is equal to integration of f of x and g of x from a to b upon integration from a to b of the function g of x dx. Okay, so we take this as a lambda. Now lambda is defined because the denominator is non-zero, it is strictly greater than 0, so it is defined. Okay, since this is denominator is not equal to the 0, lambda is defined. Lambda is defined because since the integration g of x dx is strictly positive, this value is defined. Okay, so you have find the lambda lying between infimum and supremum of the function. Now just multiply. Now just change the side of this denominator. Take the denominator to the left side, so it goes with multiplication this side. Okay, so we can write. So this implies this integration from a to b of the function f of x into g of x is becomes, take this to the left side, so denominator become numerator. Okay, so divisor become multiplier is equal to lambda into integration of the function g. Okay, so we have proved there is the lambda lying between infimum and supremum of the function such that integration of part f and g is equal to lambda into integration of g. Okay, this is the proof. Now the next point is integral as a limit of sum. So we will now find the criteria for integrability. Okay, in terms of Riemann sum, we will derive the formula of integral in terms of limit of sum, any summation. Okay, so the formula is, the criteria is, a function is Riemann integrable if and only the integration of f is equal to the limit norm of partition tending to 0 of Riemann sum. This SPF is called Riemann sum, which is equal to the summation of f of ti into delta xi, where ti are the midpoint of the intervals. Okay, so suppose this is the interval from a to b. This is the first point, and suppose our a is equal to x naught. This is our x1. Then here is the point, middle point. You can say t1, t2 up to so on. So summation f of ti in delta xi is called Riemann sum. Okay, so we will now derive some formula for finding the integration. This is one formula. Okay, now we will take a partition which divide the interval from a to b into n equal parts, and then for that purpose the length of the interval will be, length of this subinterval will be b minus a upon n. So using this length, each subinterval will get the length b minus a upon n. So the interval a to b will get divided into n equal parts. Okay, so and in this case, since each subinterval has the same length, norm will be equal to the that same length b minus a upon n. Okay, so take norm of the partition equal to the b minus a upon n. Okay, so in that case we will write this norm b minus a upon n equal to the h. Okay, also this point ti, or we can say tk also. Okay, so tk will be equal to the first point plus k times the length of the interval. So first point is a plus k times the length of interval. So if you find the midpoint of the kth interval, we have to add the first point and k times the length of each interval, which is equal to a plus kh. Okay, so tk is equal to a plus kh. Now, as our condition is norm tends to 0, that is h tends to 0. So if b minus a upon n tends to 0, for this value tends to 0, denominator must go to infinity, because if denominator goes to infinity, the value goes to 0. So for norm of p tends to 0, the denominator must tend to infinity, because if n tends to infinity, something of the infinity tends to 0. So n tends to infinity, this value norm will tends to 0. Okay, see, if this value tends to infinity, so 1 of b minus is some constant number upon infinity will tends to 0. This norm will tends to 0. Okay, and we are seeing value of tk will be a plus kh. Okay, so putting this value here, we will get integration from a to b of the function f will be equal to the limit. Now instead of writing norm of it into 0, it is similar to write as n tends to infinity. So limit n tends to infinity into f of ti delta xi, but delta xi is fixed because each interval has the same length b minus a upon n, and we are given a name to it, which is h, and it is constant b minus a upon n, so we can take it outside. Okay, so limit we can take it outside of the sum, because sum contains sum is over k. Okay, so h is the summation of f of ti, the f of, we can say f of tk, which is equal to a plus kh. A plus kh, and sum is of k is equal to 1 to n. So we will now take a particular case in which we will take value a is equal to 1 and b is equal, so a is equal to 0, and we will take upper limit b is equal to 1. So in that case, for h will be equal to the b minus a upon n. So b is 1, a is 0 upon n, so 1 minus 0 is 1, so 1 by n. Okay, so we have get actually a formula which is integral as a limit of sum. Okay, so we already get a criteria for integral as a limit of sum, but now we are taking some particular we are deriving a particular formula for some particular value of n. This is the formula for integral as limit of sum. This is sum, this is limit, this is integral. Now we will calculate a formula for some particular values. Okay, so for a is equal to 0 and b is equal to 1, your h will be this. So integration form now 0 to 1, a is 0, b is 1 of the function will be equal to the limit n tends to infinity, or h is 1 by n, and summation k is equal to 1 to n of f of a plus kh, or a is 0, so k into h, so h is 1 by n, so k into 1 by n is, so f of k into h, or h is equal to 1 by n, so k into 1 by n is k by n. Okay, so we have find the formula for integration of f from 0 to 1, which is equal to limit n tends to infinity 1 by n, summation k is equal to 1 to n f of k by n. This can be also written as limit n tends to infinity 1 by n, summation, instead of 1 we can write from 0 to n minus 1 f of k by n. This is the formula for integral as limit of sum, and this is the particular case. Okay.